Everybody is going to die at some time, and although many people die of natural causes like old age or diseases, it may not always be the case. You would be shocked and alarmed to hear some of the most unbelievable but true ways that people have died throughout history. Be forewarned, some of the ways that people have passed to the other side are downright gruesome, and some of the content may be disturbing to some viewers. Welcome back to Facts Fanatics. We are dedicated to bringing you the most shocking and downright unbelievable real-life incidents that stun the world. Today we're going to discuss 10 highly unusual recorded deaths and the circumstances that surrounded them. There are millions of deaths recorded throughout history that fall under this category, and in case you're unaware of these, we have brought you a list that focuses on some of the most extreme. Please like and subscribe so that we can provide you with more interesting true stories. Without further ado, here are 10 of the most unusual deaths ever recorded in history. By the way, make sure to stick around to the end where we give you an additional bonus incident involving a teenager and an FBI investigation. Number 1. Death by uranium. On September 30th, 1999, a critical disaster occurred at the Tokai nuclear power plant as a result of the actions of 3 technicians: Hisashi Aochi, Masato Shinohara, and Yutaka Yokokawa. As the technicians wanted to speed up the process, many safety protocols were disregarded. The precipitation tank ended up holding 16 kilograms, or 35 pounds of the lethal substance dissolved in rich uranium instead of the recommended 2.4 kilograms, or 5.3 pounds. While holding the funnel that was used to pour the uranyl nitrate into the feeder tank, the substance was spilled, and all 3 men made contact with it. Aochi received the largest dose. His condition quickly deteriorated when he was brought to the hospital, but his family had requested that physicians attempt CPR on him every time his heart stopped beating. Over the course of nearly 3 months, doctors tried everything they could think of to save his life, from antibiotics to early use of peripheral stem cell transplantation, but in the end his cardiac arrest was fatal, and he passed away on December 21st, 1999. Yokokawa, who took the lowest dose, survived after 3 months in the hospital, whereas Shinohara died on April 27, 2000 from multiple organ failure compounded by infections despite extensive treatment attempts. Number 2. Death by black bear. Not how you think though. A 25-year-old female from Gatineau, Canada, and a 40-year-old male driver from Ottawa, Canada, were both brutally killed when their SUV was struck by a flying bear on a remote road in Quebec. After stepping into traffic on Highway 148, the 440-pound black bear was launched into the air by a car in front of the SUV. The bear crashed through the vehicle's front window, striking the driver and the backseat passenger before exiting the vehicle through the rear window. The boyfriend of the driver, who was in the front passenger seat, miraculously sustained no life-threatening injuries to the upper body. Not surprisingly, the bear passed away. Number 3. Meteorite. Indian media said that V. Kamaraj, 40, a bus driver in India, was killed by a meteorite that landed when he was going to get a drink of water, leaving a 2-foot or 60-centimeter crater. According to Indian media, the explosion left a huge crater in the ground and blew out window panes of nearby buildings. The victim was reportedly standing near the site of the impact and was killed instantly. According to one witness, G. Baskar, "I was in my office at the time, and we felt a vibration in the building for nearly a minute. All the students and faculty members came outside and we saw a cloud of dust." According to a preliminary report by the National College Instrumentation faculty in Trichy, India, samples recovered from the Vellore, India campus, where the incident occurred, revealed the presence of carbonaceous chondrites, aka space particles. However, NASA authorities disputed this, indicating that the most likely explanation was a land-based explosion. Number 4. Swallowed a knife. In March of 1809, John Cummings, an American man, visited the local circus and was enamored by the talent of the show's knife swallowers. So enamored, in fact, that he decided to start teaching himself how to swallow knives. Cummings became so dedicated to learning the craft that he eventually decided to attempt swallowing 4 knives at once. The first 3 were passed through his body successfully, with no ill effects. Emboldened by his rapid success at picking up the talent, he decided to keep pushing his limits further and further, until he decided one day to swallow a whopping 14 knives at once. The next days were filled with excruciating abdominal pain, but he did eventually pass all 14 of the knives without major issues. He next swallowed 20 knives along with a clasp knife case. At first he did not feel any ill effects, but after a few days, only the case had passed through his body. This final attempt at glory would prove to be his final, as he would pass away shortly after. Upon conducting an autopsy of his body, knife blades, springs, and nearly 40 shards of metal, wood, and ivory were found in his stomach. Number 5. The Killer Statue. In Santa Coloma de Gramenet, Catalonia in Spain, the body of a 39-year-old man was discovered inside the hind leg of a papier-mâché stegosaurus monument. There was no indication of foul play in the initial police reports. However, an officer from the local police department speculated that the man became locked inside after crawling in headfirst to get back his misplaced cell phone. Authorities speculated he had been confined for a couple of days before the fire department was able to split the statue in half and remove the body. The family had reported him missing just hours before he was found, according to local media. But the body was found after a man and his son investigated a strange odor coming from the statue and peered through a hole to see what was inside. Number 6. A foul ball. At the Los Angeles Dodgers game on May 16, 1970, 14-year-old Alan Fish was struck in the head by a foul ball hit by Manny Mota. The child lost consciousness for a minute, but after being given an ice pack and 2 aspirin by the Dodger Stadium medical staff, he returned to his seat and continued to behave normally for the remainder of the game. However, he started screaming and shivering excessively on the bus journey back home. When he reached his house, his parents took him to the hospital, but they had to take him to 3 different hospitals until they found one that would take him the next day. After a seizure caused apparent brain death, his life support was turned off 2 days later. A later examination revealed that a piece of his broken skull had been trapped in his brain, causing intercerebral hemorrhaging. He was the first baseball fan in the history of the major leagues to pass away from injury sustained from a foul ball. The Major Leagues of Baseball organization has since mandated that all major league parks have protective netting, protecting those sitting closest to the action in order to avoid further deaths such as this one. Number 7. Death by an elevator. Christopher Mules, 25, a correctional officer, and Timothy Gilliam Jr., 27, an out-of-county inmate being housed at the Luzerne County Correctional Facility in Luzerne County, Pennsylvania, fell to their deaths after an altercation between them caused them to slam into the exterior of the 5th floor elevator doors. Despite the elevator having its up-to-date functioning credentials, the door sprang open on impact, forcing the men to tumble 5 stories down the shaft to their deaths. The death of Mules was ruled a homicide, while that of Gilliam was ruled an accident by the county. Number 8. Death in a cupboard. Elizabeth Isherwood, 60 at the time, and for unknown reasons, rented a villa and went naked into a cupboard. Part of the door handle snapped off in her hand as she tried to exit, so she dug into the wall to get it out, but in doing so, she hit a pipe and broke it. As a result, water started rushing into the closet, where she eventually froze to her death. After several days, she was finally located. Number 9. Sandwiched by a car. Anton Yelchin, 27, an American actor best known for playing Pavel Chekhov in J.J. Abrams' Star Trek Kelvin reboot movie series, was discovered crushed between his automobile and a brick wall. His driveway was sloped, and at the time, the automobile was discovered running with the gear in the neutral position. You can imagine the rest. Sadly, the automobile had been recalled in April 2016 due to concerns about its gearshift design that could lead to rollaway accidents. But the software patch to correct the vehicles did not reach dealers until the week that Yelchin passed away. Number 10. Crushed by a tombstone. Stephen Wojtak, aged 74, and his wife were preparing their family cemetery plot at St. Joseph's Cemetery in Throop, Pennsylvania, for Easter, when the gravestone of his mother-in-law toppled over, pinning him below and crushing him to death. The tombstone was knocked loose when the ground, which had been frozen for much of the winter, began to thaw in the early spring. Wojtak was laid to rest at a plot that was situated precisely in front of the tombstone that was responsible for his death. So, we have given you 10 fascinating deaths, but if you would like, we can give you one more bonus incident. Number 11. Gym mat. In January of 2013, 17-year-old high school student Kendrick Johnson was found in his school's gymnasium, dead and trapped inside of a rolled-up wrestling mat. Pictures of his discovery leaked, and the gruesome details were enough to make even the strongest stomach squeamish. Originally, local authorities reported that he had climbed inside the mat to retrieve a shoe that had been thrown inside the rolled-up mat, but later the case was reopened under the suspicion of a much more devious explanation: homicide. Even the FBI got involved in the investigation. While the case was dismissed a few years later, and Johnson's parents were accused of fabricating evidence during the course of the investigation, there were a ton of eyes on the case that simply couldn't believe the official cause of an accidental trapping. The case was later opened again in 2021, but was again quickly shut, after the local sheriff again found the cause of death to be an accident, after re-reviewing over 15 boxes of additional evidence from the FBI's official findings. In the end, we all know that there is only one certainty in life, and that is death. Everything must come to an end. We can only hope that our eventual demise is not nearly as unique and brutal as the ones mentioned on our list. This also brings us to the end of this video. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please help us continue providing similar stories by liking and subscribing to our channel. Until the next time.